Thank you very much. I couldn't figure out how to get your attention. I figured I would. I know there's some folks that are still out having lunch or maybe breaking up from the press conference that just happened. I don't know how much you could all hear that about the announcement, but we're very excited that the private bank has just announced $10 million commitment to help us with the acquisition costs and rehab costs of distressed properties. So some more details coming out about that, but one of the challenges we've had at the land bank since the get-go, both of our land banks, is that working with the existing source of funds, there's just not enough resources available, and oftentimes the public funds have so many restrictions on them that it can be challenging. So the fact that the private bank has committed $10 million of completely private capital to put back into these neighborhoods is a really tremendous opportunity for us. And so I hope over the next days and weeks, those of you who are engaging in doing different developments, those that are working with housing counseling agencies, those that are working with different development entities, will start to look at this as another potential resource to acquire distressed properties, get them rehab, and get them into the hands of owners and occupants who are going to help rebuild the community. So thank you all for coming back, and we get started. Yeah. How do I get this? There we go. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
All right, hopefully we can bring some of that to later. It's not fun, but here is one of the properties we're working on. This is an existing project, 15644 South Cicero in Oak Forest. The building you're looking at is a former electric warehouse. They sold electric supplies, piping, those kind of things. It's a commercial property. But what is particularly interesting about this, kind of the project goal, is this is within the TOD area of the city of Oak Forest. And if you look at the map, just south of the blue dot is the Metro parking lot, and just south of that is where the new metro station is in Oak Forest. So in this city, they're concentrating on the train area as an area they would like to redevelop and provide some new housing and some other opportunities there. So when the land bank became operational, one of the first things we did was start looking at these areas with the city and to see what we could start acquiring and helping with. And to give you an idea where the blue dot is, the buildings all to the left of that, to the west, are all properties that the city has either already been involved in acquiring or has already acquired. So there's a large land assembly going on right with all those buildings and parcels there. So the goal there is a redevelopment and to provide new housing in their TOD area. And some of the buildings which you can't see, but next to our building are what I would consider very rundown, older California-style apartment buildings. So these are buildings that got foreclosed on or became distressed and became blighted, and the city stepped in to start acquiring those properties. And then the idea being that now we have a large piece that we can assemble together, we can attract a developer who wants to do a larger project. So thankfully, about a year ago, there was a similar type presentation, and Bridgecore came to them. I think Donnie is here somewhere. Hi, Donnie. They started talking to the city of Oak Forest and said, we might be interested in one of these areas around the train. So there was a discussion that started happening, and the land bank was kind of operational right at that time. So we started joining in those discussions, and then ended up the city wanted us to pursue this property specifically because we could acquire it quicker, we could do it a little easier, and have kind of less steps to go through than the city. But in this case, this is kind of an interesting project because this involves the city actually funding our acquisition of this property. So this was a bank-owned property, was foreclosed on. I can't think of the bank name, do you remember? American Charter maybe or something like that, but regardless, they had a price. This was not a donation, so we had to pay for it, but luckily the city stepped up, was able to provide us funding for it, so they're providing us the ability to acquire and then hold it, and then with the idea, the end use will be a new housing, kind of mixed use transaction that Bridgeshore will do, and it'll encompass all of those different parcels that you see up there. They're going for tax credit funding, so this is something that's going to take basically a couple of years to put together. We understand that. The city is okay with it. The city is supportive of Bridgeshore, so this is an area where Bridgeshore doesn't necessarily want to acquire all these parcels with the hope that they'll get tax credits, and they don't want to take on that risk. This is a situation where the city and the land bank are willing to take that risk, and if it goes through with Bridgeshore, they get tax credits and build the new housing there, that's fantastic. If that doesn't happen, we will have an alternate disposition, but we would be looking to do the same type of project. So it's really assembly of enough parcels to make it attractive to a large quality developer, and then being able to package that in a way that they can work with when they go out for financing. And because this is a tax credit project, it's pretty complicated. There's a lot of steps and a lot of things to go through. So this is, I think, a great example as far as where a land bank could fit in and hold something while a lot of other pieces are kind of put together, and while the financing is put together. I would say, how is the land bank helpful on this? We were able to close, to put under contract and close on this fairly easily and quickly, and I would think a little bit quicker and easier than the city could. We also were able to do kind of quick site control documents with Bridgeshore, because anybody that's been through the item process knows you've got to document a lot of things. You've got to have site control. It's got to be done a certain way. You've got limited time to do it. So we were able to help them kind of through that process. We know that's putting those tax credit deals is hectic, and it's last minute. So we hope we were helpful with that. And I think going forward, this is a good model and structure that we can certainly replicate in other places. So we have an agreement with the city. We can use that same agreement in Oak Forest again. They've got a number of other TOD area projects that you might want to look at. This isn't it. There's several more. So anybody interested in Oak Forest, let us know. We'll see if there's a fit there. But the agreements, the way the process is, kind of going through the item process on this one, also, I think is all good learning experience for the land bank, for our legal, so we know, what we're getting involved in and where we can be helpful. I think this is just one example of doing something where there's multiple land assembly there, there's a lot of involvement from the city, and then there's also multiple layers of financing and those kind of things that have to be worked through. So we're very excited to have Bridgeshore. Everybody, I think, knows them. They're a very high quality developer, and we're excited they're coming to the South Suburbs. So they're recognizing there's opportunities and things they can do down there. So we're happy that they're coming. But this is kind of one of the larger, kind of more complicated things we're working on, and now I'll switch over to something that's a little bit easier to go through. So this is 406 Sewanee in Park Forest. This is a single-family home that was a donation from Bank of America. I believe this was the first property we closed on, so this was the first thing any land bank in Illinois acquired. But if you look at the map, it's in a very just single-family residential area of Park Forest. There's not a high concentration of vacancy or anything particularly in this block or anything, but it was a property, obviously, that was a donation that we saw there is an opportunity for us to act on. We have funding, we have the ability to get this back rehabbed and back into someone's hands. So we thought this is a good property for the land bank to take on. One of the interesting things that has happened since we bought this, so the idea is we'll buy this, we're getting it donated, it's in pretty good shape, so we think the renovation will be fairly cheap and we'll be able to get it back on the market and sell it at a decent price and give somebody an opportunity at a good price on a house. In the interim, the Village of Park Forest has gotten a Vista AmeriCorps volunteer grant. So they have somebody coming to work for the village to do community work for the next year, and they approached us and said, is this a possibility? Could the volunteer rent this from the land bank for a year while they work and live in the community? And we said, sure, that's great. This is exactly what the land bank should be doing. This is getting a property renovated, getting it back into responsible hands, and getting it occupied. And whether it's a renter or a buyer, I guess in this case, you want somebody responsible and somebody that is going to be a good keeper of the property. So we're happy that they're looking at it. It's not done. They've got to come out, I think, and look at the property and finalize everything. But it seems like a good fit. Seems like something, we would be helping the village out. They'd be helping us out by occupying the property, and then in a year from now, hopefully the market improves, and we would even get a better price on the house down the line. If it does not go to the Vista volunteer, this would be a house that would be available for developers to look at. So you could come in and buy it from us, renovate it, and then resell it. So most of the properties we have may have multiple paths kind of at the beginning because we don't know what the disposition is ultimately going to be every time. But you can see we're willing to work on kind of anything, and if it makes sense, we're going to try it. We're going to try and see if there's a way to do it. So lessons learned with kind of both of these. These were early properties that this was the first one. So this was kind of going through our process, our approval, but then getting into the legal documents. What does the donation mean, and what do those documents entail, and how difficult or not is closing going to be. So we got through all that, and we definitely survived. It wasn't that bad. The property in Old Forest, same thing. Larger property, commercial property, of cost, so there was money that had to be exchanged. So in that case, we learned a lot about how we are going to put together transactions, what makes sense. And these are all things that are going to be replicated, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time we go through these transactions. But this just gives you an idea of kind of what we're looking at. So it's big, it's small, some of it's complicated, some of it can be real easy. And I can tell you just real quickly, in a number of our communities, there's a lot of opportunities, both small and large. So like I said before, there's a lot of TOD areas that have land that's available that we can help you assemble and do large projects. If you're looking for single families or something like this to renovate, or you have buyers or something like that, we have those small projects and kind of everything in between. So I think that's I think about it. I mean, we're going to fund these with this one with Attorney General funding if we do the rehab. With the property in Old Forest, there's probably not much we're going to do to it until it gets to the developer stage. So we may demolish that building, but that hasn't quite been figured out yet and how we're going to fund that. But that'll just be something we kind of look at as we kind of go through and understand whether we end up getting children's tax credits. If they move forward, there's a kind of one path. If they can't, then there's another path. So I guess the idea is there's a lot of flexibility, a lot of different types of properties, a lot of different types of dispositions. So we're open to ideas and just hopefully these give you just kind of a just a sense of what we're looking at and give you some ideas to work with.
If it's maintained as a rental, will the land bank hold ownership of it? And do you have a management wing that would be, transfer that?
Yeah, if we want ownership to it, we would likely have a third-party manager. Realistically, we would give anything we have rental, it's likely going to go back.
Is there any accommodation for sweat equity?
We've thought about that. We haven't really
Russ,
put something.
repeat the question so that.
Oh, yeah, is there any potential for sweat equity? And I guess we can look at it then on a case-by-case basis. So if it's a buyer coming in, are they going to do something? Can we work through that? I'm open to ideas on that. We've looked at how Habitat works. I don't know if it's a perfect match of how we could set something up, but I think it'd be a good guideline. So we could think about that. So the answer, I guess, is possibly. Any other questions while I'm up here? Or we can turn it over to Brian, and we'll have questions later too.
Yeah.